Greetings, Terrarians, Khaios here. I'm sure that many of you are aware that PewDiePie once again has started up a Terraria Let's Play, and for his return for Journey's End, it got me thinking that it might be fun to do a tribute build for him. In his Minecraft series, late last year, he launched his old Ikea Tower into space, and as I sit here in front of this giant meatball, I got to thinking, what if the first Ikea Tower wasn't just launched into space? What if it drifted among the stars until it finally arrived in a new world? Not just a new world, but a new dimension. A second dimension. It departed Minecraft and arrived in Terraria to greet Felix at Journey's End. Well, that's the inspirational idea behind this build anyway. Today, I'm going to be doing a build inspired by PewDiePie's Ikea Tower, and in order to do that, I had to first get Felix's partner in crime. Meet Sven. This husky is one of the town dogs that can spawn in Terraria, and it is a reference to his Minecraft dog of the same name. I even got PewDiePie's first guide, Connor. Now, don't ask what it took to get Sven to move in, it was quite the task. Let's just say that if you want to get a specific dog in your world, be prepared to take certain actions. But now that I have both Sven and Connor, let's get straight into the build. Since the idea is that Ikea Tower flew here through space, I thought it would be a fun idea to build off of that concept by making it on top of a floating island, as if the raw power of the tower collected land throughout its journey, and once it arrived in this world, vegetation grew onto the island over time. So in order to do this, I bring back one of my favorite building materials, sandstone with gray paint. It provides a smoother texture than stone block does, and I think it's a perfect material to use for islands such as this. I block swap some of the sandstone with dirt so that I have something softer to place grass, plants, and trees on top of. Next, I lay down the first layer of the foundation for the tower. I do this early on so that I have a good idea of how wide the tower will be and exactly what point on the island it will sit. Next, I place some gray painted sand in between the dirt and sandstone blocks so that they can blend together to get rid of the lines and gaps in between. Using my staff of regrowth, I spread grass to nearby dirt, then I place an acorn, speed up time to max so that tall grass and the tree can grow faster, and once everything has grown, I pause time again and create the false foundation using some rich mahogany wall and shadewood fence painted brown with some green slab wall painted gray. I place some living leaf wall around the grass areas to form some bushes, and then I turn off the camera, speed up time for about 20 minutes real time to grow some vines from the grass that's hanging on the bottom side of the island. Alright, so here we have the starting island where the tower will be floating upon. Now, I actually think that I want to make this quite a bit wider. I'm realizing that it's only 19 tiles wide for the foundation of the tower. That would be probably about a 17 wide tower, and I think I want to make this quite a bit bigger than that, so I might stretch this out so the foundation is probably around 31, maybe, and then stretch the island out even further than that, probably to around here, so that I could have some vegetation on the other side. But before I do that, I want to show you guys a little bit of a trick that you can do with some echo blocks to keep these vines that I have growing from the grass from growing further than that, because these will grow down to 10 blocks long, and that's not what I want. I don't want it to be like all the way down here, all the way down here, and everything being the exact same length. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some echo block here, and let me just put on my Spectre goggles so we could see what's going on. And using my ice rod, I'm just going to place a block here. And I want to stop this vine right there. So with this echo block in that place, it won't grow any further than that. And then I'm just going to bring this one to right here and get rid of the spares. And then I'm going to probably raise this one up just a little bit, because it grew a little bit longer than I would have wanted, like that. Now, these echo blocks will prevent the vines from growing any further, but obviously they're physical right now. So if we grab some actuators and we place them right on top and push these into the background, then these we can now pass in front of. and if you're not wearing your goggles, it'll be completely invisible, but these will keep the vines at the length that we want them. So up next, I'm going to expand this island out a little bit more after I determined exactly how big I want this tower to be. So the island is looking much better now. It's quite a bit wider, and I've added a lot more detail to it, including one of the brand new sakura trees, which just look fantastic in my opinion. Underneath, we have some of the new stone that you can get from crafting within the graveyard biome, and I did the same technique with the vines over here and echo blocks to keep them at the length that I want to. So up next, I'm going to start work on the tower itself. Now I'm thinking that this will look fairly ruined, not necessarily ruined, but maybe worn. And so with that in mind, I'm going to be using materials like this green brick because it's got a lot of cracks and texture in it. I'll even be using some of the new cracked green brick. Now I can't use this on top of anywhere that anybody will be walking, because obviously, as I just demonstrated there, it can crumble when you walk on it. So I would only be using that to fill in gaps like this to add a little bit more texture to the walls. In addition to that, I'm going to experiment around with trying something new using some of these sandstone columns here. So I might do like 3 of these here and bring that out like that. And I might even go as far as using some of this iron brick in a fashion kind of like this to make a pattern for the side of the walls. I'm going to be doing a lot of experimentation, so I probably won't put this on camera. So once I have a good idea of exactly what I want to do with the walls, and it might just be this because I'm honestly thinking it looks pretty good, I will bring back the video and we'll move on to the interior of the tower. Change of plans. I decided to time-lapse this brief segment because I was really happy with that wall pattern straight away. While I work on that, I wanted to mention that it would be great if you all shared this build around, and if somehow PewDiePie was able to see it, that would honestly make my day. The tower will be available for download with a link in the description as well, so if any of you wanted to use this world save for yourself, you are more than welcome to do just that. This world was obviously built in journey mode, but if that isn't your cup of tea, you can use T-Edit to change the world difficulty to match whatever mode fits your preference. T-Edit is still in beta development for 1.4, but it is functioning and will be able to convert the world type. Just make sure that you save a backup of your world first, just in case. So far, so good. I'm really happy with how the tower is turning out at this point in development. Now, I want to make this somewhat based off of the original tower, obviously with my own spin on everything, as you could see, well, with the design. But when I mean I want it based off of the original, I want it to be thicker towards the bottom and then have thinner tiers working its way up. And right around here, in the original tower, PewDiePie had somewhat of wings jutting out to the side of the tower, and I'm going to do something similar to that right here because I think that it would be a nice addition to this tower as well. So I'm going to work out exactly how I want those wings to work, because even those were tiered in the original, so they kind of start out thinner towards the bottom and then thicker out towards the side. So I'll work out exactly how I want that to look. But once that's done, I'm going to start thinning this tower as we go up. So I might make the outside walls about there and then come into here and work my way up here. And eventually this will be a very tall, very thin tower at the very top. Now this is probably not going to be exactly where I have everything going, but I'm going to do something roughly like this, where it thins itself out the taller it goes, up until the very top where we have another wing pattern. And once that's all done, we'll start moving on to the interior. Okay, so the tower shape is done. So as you can see here, we have somewhat of the original shape where it goes up in tiers and it gets thinner as it goes higher, with some of the wing segments coming out towards the ends. And I also threw in the Ikea sign right here in the center, and I even went so far as to add the beacon. Now this is just some deep yellow painted confetti block, and I didn't want it to be a solid wall just dividing the world in half like this, so you're actually able to pass through it. You can see that I land on it, but I'm still able to pass through it, and the reason for that is I'm using a hoik. And if I just throw on some Spectre goggles, you can see here I have actuated echo blocks that have also been painted deep yellow, just in case you could actually see them. They kind of match up, but they'll be invisible without the Spectre goggles. But since they are sloped in this fashion and they're actuated, you're able to pass through these solid blocks, which means that I've got this, I guess, beacon beam all of the way up to the top of the world without actually blocking your way of getting from one side to the other. So the tower is now done on the exterior. I still need to do the interior, obviously, and that's what I'm going to be working on next. And then after that, all that's left to do is add some decorations. The interior of Ikea Tower is pretty basic. Since PewDiePie's version from Minecraft was almost entirely made out of cobblestone, I wanted to bring the feeling of that stone into this building as well. I'm accomplishing that with some gray painted blue tiled walls from the dungeon, though you could also pull this off with some blue slab, green brick, or blue brick walls as well. I don't personally like when one type of wall is used for the entirety of an interior for any building, so I like to break it up with accents. Accents can be different colors or different textures. In this case, I decided on going with different textures. Ebonstone brick wall is much more smooth than the blue tiled wall is, so when I trim the edges of the room with it, it really makes everything pop. Additionally, I lined the bottoms and the tops of the rooms with gray brick wall. The structured pattern of this wall makes it stand out even more from the other two wall types. Honestly, I rarely used gray brick, but I saw a Discord member use the walls as an accent and it really appealed to me, so I'm gonna start adapting this into my medieval wall designs like this. With the accent walls out of the way, I got started on the spiral staircase. Brown painted large bamboo acts as the pillar that's running down the center of the stairwell. This stands out much more than a gray or white painted version would, which is why I go with that when I'm working with mostly stone backgrounds. I used steampunk platforms for the steps for the same reason, meaning that they also stand out really well against those gray walls. Finally, once that's done, I let some natural light into the tower by means of windows. I used some gray painted glass wall, and then I place actuated grate blocks in front of them. When grates are open, they let light into the area. If they're closed via wiring, light no longer comes through. They really do make for amazing looking medieval windows. Since they are blocks, you will need to actuate them to walk in front, and since you have to actuate them, you will need a background wall behind them to prevent monster spawnings and to make sure that the house is valid. This is the purpose of the glass wall, as it doesn't disrupt any of the light coming through. Ikea Tower in all of its glory. In typical Felix fashion, I have covered this thing in head to toe in Swedish flags, or in some blue banners that look relatively similar to the Swedish flags. The furniture set that I went with is steampunk to match the stairwell, and I just feel like it's a good fit for fancier looking medieval builds in general. The block version of the Swedish flag is pumpkin block that has been painted deep blue and deep yellow, and on top of that is some wooden shelf from the dungeon that's been painted black or left unpainted in the version of the wall kinds of the flags over here, which are made out of sail. The reason why I have wall versions and block versions is because I wanted the interior ones like this to have a texture. And if I had used the walls, it would just be straight lines and not have any of the wavy pattern like the pumpkin down here does. In addition to that, I have a table with an apple and a book and some more banners on the exterior, and we have a sofa in here. You could sit on the sofa, it's a little cringe, or if you grab some black paint and a dynasty chair and we just place it on the floor over here, you can be floor gang ho! Okay, so the build is pretty much done. We've got the tower, we've got the meatball down below. I just want to tidy this up and add a little bit more detail. I'm thinking some floating islands with some more grass, some more trees and bushes, just to make this look a little bit more full, and then the entire thing will be complete. So I'm just going to finish that up real quick. And now Ikea Tower is complete. If we go from this here meatball up the chain, you'll see that I have now surrounded the island with some smaller floating islands that have more grass, bushes, and trees. If you want to get trees to grow on tiny spaces like this, you'll have to build out longer areas for the trees to grow on, and then delete grass and dirt blocks to the shape that you want after the tree has sprouted. I also destroyed the original box house that I made to get Sven to move in, and as you can see, both he and Connor have taken residence inside Ikea Tower. And that will wrap up everything. I hope you all enjoyed this build. If you did, be sure to leave a like and a comment, and please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out. Let me know in the comment section what you think of my take on PewDiePie's Ikea Tower. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow with a brand new video. Catch you all later. Happy building!